Lord, thank you so much for Lord, just this time that we can gather together and hang out, and Lord, see what works and what's not working, see what we need to work on, all that kind of thing. And Lord, I pray for wisdom. James 1:5, you tell us to ask, and so I'm asking, and we're asking for wisdom to know what to do at our churches the next few weeks. And so I just pray that you grant us favor and clarity to know what to do and how to go about things. And Lord, just give us wisdom in certain areas, help us learn from each other. And thank you for friends that we can come together all over the country and hang out. We love you, Lord. Amen. All right, guys. As we kind of jump in, be sure to mute your mic, and we'll kind of walk through. I'm going to give a few things to you, and then we'll do some Q&A. And I really want some more people involved in the chat this week. So we'll do a lot of just kind of seeing where you are and just kind of talk through some stuff. All right. So as Steve and I from our team, as we were kind of hanging out this morning, we were kind of thinking, okay, if it were us doing church online, if I was the decision maker, what would I do? Knowing that we're probably going to be in online church world for at least another month, okay, as the president has extended through April 30th. We know that we're going to have to do church some different way online for the next month at least. So if it were me, what would I do? Okay. So that's where I'm going to come at a few things, and then whether it's right or wrong, you disagree, I completely understand. I'm just wanting to walk through some things. All right, so I'm going to give a few kind of decisions that I would make, and then we're going to walk through an online church service flow. Okay, so if it were me and I was putting together your online church service, this is what I would do, and you feel free to tweak it based on that. All right, so here's some few tips. Okay, if it were up to me, from what I'm seeing, from where we're going, I would pre-record and I would simulate live. So I would not stream live. I would pre-record and sim live. Okay. Here's my reasons why. I think we can package it better for the medium that we're serving. I think there's less chance of error because there's so many streaming platforms. It's kind of, is Facebook Live going to hang tight? Like 2 weeks ago, it was struggling. Yesterday, it was a little bit better. But is Facebook Live going to, go down? Is YouTube Live going to go down? Is your streaming provider going to go down? That sort of thing. So I think it's less chance of error for you to pre-record and simulate live. Also, you can still use your streaming platform and simulate live. So you can still, it looks like a live stream, but it's really a pre-recorded video. So if it were me, that's what I would do. All right, second thing is this. Set up in a living room or intimate setting at your church, okay? I think we need to move a little bit away from you doing church like normal to an empty room, okay? I think we either need to do an acoustic or small band type setting in a living room, or you can do it from the church on the stage, but like small intimate feel. Now, one thing I've been hearing lately is people are concerned with people getting too close together. So like worship leaders will have 10 people, but they're right on top of each other. So be careful of that. But don't do big flashy lights. Don't do big, programming. Small intimate feel, small band, maybe an acoustic, one or two people kind of thing. Again, this is just opinion. I'm just throwing it out. Okay. If I were in charge, I would put a pastor in his home, or I would put a pastor in a cozy spot, either on the stage or in a living room type setting at your church. So in a chair, in a small room, that kind of thing. Real intimate feel. It could be on the stage, but with one table, and your camera's like right here, so it's right in front of them, so it feels really intimate. Okay, so and then worship set again, acoustic, 1 to 2 people on guitar or small band. All right, if you're gonna play to the medium, I would suggest using Subtitle. And Steve, put this in the chat if you would. That's Subtitle with a Z. subtitle.com or rev.com to subtitle your service. So if you're putting it online later, these are great resources for you to subtitle your service for really cheap. I think it's like $1 a minute or something like that. So you're talking under $100 to have your service subtitled. All right. Um, all right. Another tip, pastor. Even if the same pastor is preaching, I would put that pastor in the comments in Facebook so that that person can interact with your people or a couple of your pastors. So have your pastors in the comment section on Facebook interacting with people during the service, okay? In real time. All right. Something else. Use your website or freeonlinechurch.com as your primary streaming source. For instance, I would not send people to your Facebook page. I would send people to lifechurch.com/live and then put links to your, if you want to put links to your Facebook page or whatever. I'm not saying don't put it on Facebook, don't put it on YouTube. What I am saying is the URL that you need to give out to people to be your primary source, I think needs to be your website or a service like freeonlinechurch.com. The reason why I say this is because, and I was talking with the guys at Living as One the other day. We did a bonus podcast episode with them. And also Outreach, who is the guys that are putting on the freeonlinechurch.com service. Both of those guys told me this directly, and I'm seeing it as well, that the engagement rate, engagement rate for Facebook is like 2 to 5 minutes. Engagement rate on YouTube is 10 to 20 minutes. Engagement rate on your website or a dedicated landing page goes up to 40 to 50 minutes. Okay. So the engagement of people staying with your service the entire time goes way up if you're not giving them multiple things to look at or pop to or whatever. So send people to that dedicated landing page and then they can go somewhere else. Okay. All right. So those are just some random tips. All right. Let me talk through a suggested online church service flow. And this is my opinion and the best church that I found that has done this. Steve, you want to put in City Bible Church's website or Facebook link? This is where are they located at, Steve? Texas?
Yeah, Round Rock, Texas is where they're located.
Okay. But this is kind of a very similar flow that this church is used, and I would highly recommend this flow. So I'm just going to lay it out for you, and you guys can have opinions, or maybe you're doing something similar. Okay. So, and Steve, we've put this together in a PDF. Steve, you want to walk through how people can grab that?
Yeah, so we've got a shortcut link here, which I'll put in the chat, and you can go download that PDF. You just put your email address, your name in, and you get an email back within a couple minutes with that PDF for you to download off our Dropbox. So there for you.
All right, let me share this, and as I walk through it, so this is what this is. Okay, so I'll just walk through it. All right, so this is just suggestions. All right, so this, I'm assuming that you are pre-recorded service and simulating live. Okay, now your church might do something different, but this is what I'm going to assume in this service flow. Okay.
Thank you for choosing my window. Ma'am, please take your order.
All right, as you come in, mute your mic if you would, or order through the drive-thru. Okay. So 5-minute countdown on your pre-recorded video. You can, in that 5-minute countdown, I give you a breakdown here so we can walk this through. In your 5-minute countdown, one thing I would also do is put in your a looping announcement announcement graphics or your video announcements. And don't be afraid to do video announcements even if you don't have any event to promote. Maybe you're promoting how to give online. Maybe you promote how to do other things. So feel free to use this countdown to have little videos from your pastors to engage with them and give them information, keep them updated, that sort of thing. So use that time. Okay, the second thing I would do is do a 2 to 3 minute intro from your pastor. I would set up the service. We would engage them on the sermon topic, and you're going to give them information like how to give online, how to connect with your church, that sort of thing. Okay, so countdown, then an intro into your pastor. Then what I would suggest is doing a 2-song worship set. So what we're finding is and seeing is that 3 songs or more are getting a little long and people are dropping off the stream. So I'm going to suggest a 2 worship song set. Again, I would make this super acoustic, intimate, living room feel, very stripped down, work to the medium that we are in, not to an empty room. Okay, let me walk through this. Lots of questions on how do we do lyrics. So, as you guys have seen this, there's different approaches that you can take. Okay, so the best option here is if you're recording this at your church or recording this even in a home scenario, if you could set your system up where you're going to embed your lyrics on your video during recording. So you have ProPresenter lyrics going to your pre-record video, and you're embedding or burning your lyrics into the video as you record it. That would be what I would suggest. That's going to save you a whole lot of time. It might be a little bit of setup on the front end, but if you can go that direction, that's what I would highly suggest. Some other approaches are you can record your video. Steve, you want to walk through a couple of these?
Yeah, so you could record the video, because if you're going to shoot multiple cameras and edit post, you could get all that set, record the video, and then what I would do is play back. Like you could just even play it back on your iPhone and listen, but then record the output of your ProPresenter feed or your lyric feed. You can actually record that output. I would do it in some sort of green or blue color so that you can chroma key out. And then what that would allow you to do is in an editing software and post, you can have the video as your background and then put the lyrics over top of it and key out the color you want to remove, and that'll leave your lyrics in front. And it's not as good as it's not as quick as the first option because you will have to go back and do some post editing, but you won't have to trigger each individual slide all over again in the actual post-production software. You can do that in ProPresenter with a space bar and just go through the service real quick. And you're only doing 2 to 3 songs, so it wouldn't be that hard to do that. The second thing, the kind of the third option we would say is to put lyrics in post using ProPresenter exports or lyric exports. In ProPresenter, you can actually export your lyric files as clear background so that all that's left is the transparent PNG lyric. So you're going to have to go in and post and put each individual slide and line it up. It'll be a little more time consuming, but it'll save you more time than the fourth option. The fourth option here would be to completely do it all in your editing software, which some people might be doing. And that takes a lot of time because you got to type each lyric, make sure they all format the same, look the same, and also time it out. So those would kind of be the 4 options. We would try to recommend towards the first one, or if you have to, go with the second one if you're not able to use a system where you can kind of merge the 2 at recording.
Let's get a little bit of opinion here. Maybe Jordan Grogan, are you in here? And can you want to speak to what you guys do at Crossroads?
Yeah, sure. I was actually just gonna type in the chat. We've actually done both. We've done the first one where we had it go into our video system, but then we've also been recording acoustic worship sets on people's iPhones. And this is actually a really great way that I've been able to engage volunteers to help me with this, because they can open up Premiere, put the titles in there for me. And so I set them up with the exact style I wanted, and then they're doing the copying, pasting, and typing in all the lyrics for me, timing it out and everything. So
Anybody else have an opinion on this or what you guys do? Paul? Oh, you're muted, I think. Try that. Go ahead, Paul. we can't hear you.
Okay, there we go.
There you go.
So I've answered this question quite a lot in the ProPresenter users group. If everything's pre-recorded, there's no reason it can't just be a background. Just bring the pre-recorded video in as a background in ProPresenter. In ProPresenter 6, you could run the entire service recording it as is, because there's a record option in Pro 6, and in real time you'll have it done. So I wouldn't even think about doing this in a video editor if I had Pro 6. In Pro 7, you can record it in OBS, you can record it in Siphon Recorder. If you're live streaming, you can bring both Pro 6 and Pro 7 into OBS with Siphon, or with NDI if you do it right. So I just have added, just even adding a couple of lower thirds takes a lot longer than doing it in real time, because you've got to position them and then everything like that. So
Yeah,
I wouldn't
totally
even
agree.
consider that.
Yeah, if you can avoid doing it in post, it would be a nightmare to try to do that. So if you can record that, that'd be great. All right, so let's jump back here. Can you guys see this okay? Hope so. All right, so that's kind of the 2-song worship set. And then I would go to a message from your pastor. A couple of notes here. Preach directly to the camera. Don't preach to an empty room. I would say even like my church is a relatively small church, and they have a like a U-turn for Christ kind of thing, where they have 10, 20 guys, but the pastor's still talking to the room, but he has 400, 500, 700 people on a stream. And I'm kind of like, hey man, lean toward the camera, because that's where the most people are interacting with you. So that's where I would suggest is preach directly to the camera. Have a small table or a chair. I would work to the medium. So I would have your pastor with a small table or chair or intimate feel. And I would use medium or close-ups where you probably wouldn't in a normal worship experience. You might get wider in a normal worship experience. I would suggest going to medium or close-ups. You guys want to speak to that for a minute? How are you doing, Pastor? Your pastor's message. Anybody want to talk about that?
We're doing close-ups. So he's on the stage still, but we put a camera's very close. It almost feels like, you know, if you see the wide shot at the Tonight Show or anything like that, where the cameras are really close to the host, that's exactly the same way. And now we don't have to worry about blocking anyone's view behind. So that's a great way to do it.
Hey, Rob, do you want to speak to Saddleback? How are you guys doing it?
Yeah. So we actually, Rick was on quarantine for a couple of weeks prior to all of this craziness. And so they actually our video team went and set up in his garage, kind of a self-service, push one button and it records everything. And so he's sitting at a table, kind of like a high boy table, but he's sitting on a chair in front of it. And he's got like his garage is really nice. So he's got like some cabinets behind him and a window that looks outside. And so it's just one static shot basically from the tabletop up to the top of his head. And that's how he teaches.
Cool. All right, let me jump back into this. Feel free, if anybody's got any input as I go, feel free to stop me. We can talk about it for a minute.
Did you guys,
Good.
yeah, this is Jim.
Hey, Jim.
I'm not on video unless you guys want to see me with unshaved and messed up hair. Hey, so did you guys happen to see Paul Daugherty on Victory Sunday morning?
No, I haven't.
All right. Well, he actually was in that style you just mentioned, very comfortable in a chair at a table. And then in the background, he had a monitor, and he went with the founder, his dad of Victory, who started 1,100 churches around the world. I mean, he's up there with Rick Warren and some of these other large international ministers. Anyway, so his son Paul was preaching, and he went back to a message that his dad preached right after 9/11 about fear and overcoming, and you know, what Jesus would say about a time like that. And so his dad would preach for a while, and then he modernized it. He would say, okay, hold on, let's listen what Pastor Billy Joe just said here. And then he articulated it. So it's almost like a dialogue with his dad there, but he'd look back at us and then talk to us in our living room. So it was a great, effectual, I even wrote him about it, communication, where he could take an old message and modernize it, because there's always been tragedy and grief around the world from beginning of time, from, you know, the first murder, Cain and Abel. So you could take all this, and it was just an effective way to do it. Like y'all just mentioned, very intimate, one camera. No, he had two. And then, yeah, always went back. He'd look over his shoulder to the media. So I just wanted to mention that, be worth going to look at for some of these guys.
Good. Yeah, I think a lot of people are moving that direction because, I mean, we're going to be in this for a month, guys. So, so I think more churches are. I mean, there's going to be empty rooms for a month. So I think to work to the medium might be a good way to go.
Hey, Carl.
Yeah.
Hey, I was going to offer one thing that we did. Ours is for student ministry, but we're still filming at church because we're allowed to still go over there. And so what we did is we had the room was empty. I saw another church do this where we turned the stage lights on, but we kind of spoke like with our back, like we were like wherever the back row was. And so everything, like you'd see the empty room and the stage behind us, but it just kind of was like blurred a little bit because of the proportions and the depth. And so it kind of gave a pretty cool shot where we're still in the room. It's still kind of what they know, but it's very different. Like it's a different student perspective and stuff. So it's been fun to be a little more creative with that kind of stuff.
Good. Cool. Awesome. All right, let's jump back in here. And again, you guys feel free to stop me. Okay, so a message from your pastor. Then I would go to, so let me kind of put this in context for us again. So countdown, then an intro from your pastor, then a 2-song set, then a full message from your pastor. And your pastor might go 45 minutes or so. I would condense it down to 15 to 20. That's just my suggestion, but totally up to you. But I would kind of condense the whole thing down. Okay, and then one closing song, and then a closing with your pastor. So again, with the closing song, I would go acoustic or intimate. Choose a song that's really, you know, talking about the message or really hits the message. Well, I would suggest that for any Sunday, to be honest. You know, as much as we can take our audience on a journey, the better. And then points to hope. Okay, and then with the closing bit from your pastor, that's when you can go into, okay, how can people respond to today's message? How can you connect with our church staff? How can people engage in community through small group? So when is our next small groups meeting, and how are they meeting? Is it through Zoom, Skype, social media, you know, Facebook live interaction? What's going on? Maybe use this time to communicate that stuff, and then thank people for worship. You guys speak to this. What are some other things that you guys are having your pastor deliver, either in the front of the service or in the back of the service, to make sure that people are connected? Why don't you guys speak to that for a minute?
Yeah, I think one of the things, this is Matt Freeman from South Carolina. I think one of the things that if we don't capitalize on, we're going to miss is the opportunity we have to cast vision for why the church matters and is important. Especially, so it's a reminder for your people, but also it's, if anyone is chiming in and you're saying, you know, we're looking forward to the day where we get to come back together and celebrate, and you're probably sitting in your home, you know, you may be an introvert, but you're missing people right now. We want to invite you into community now so that when restrictions are lifted, you have a place to come, you have a people to belong to. And so vision on front end and back end, and then really throughout. So readings, the way songs are introduced, speak directly to both the present situation and what the church wants the future reality to be for every person.
Good. That's good, Matt. All right, awesome. All right, so again, Steve put this in the chat. This is just a suggested online service flow and ideas. You might do something different, but from kind of so last week I did a deep dive into about 40 or 50 churches. Yesterday I didn't do that, but I'm still kind of connected on all the groups and from churches that are coming to us for things and that sort of thing. This is kind of what I've kind of put that research together with, is this kind of flow. You might be in a setting where your church is, 50 people, and all you need to do is your pastor on his iPhone just delivering a message on Facebook Live. Like, that's fine. But if you can do more, maybe do as much as you can on this suggested flow. So, all right, let's dive in here into some more Q&A. If you would, so the first question I got is this. All right, so what does your service flow look like? So I'd love to know. I've given you a suggested flow. I'd love to know maybe some more of what you guys are doing. And then do me a favor while we're kind of having this discussion, throw a link to your service page or your Facebook Live or somewhere where we can find your stream. Throw that in the chat for us. And that way people, as we're talking, we can kind of look at that. And I'm also so I want to know, what does your service flow look like? And I'd love to, as we're putting links in the chat, I would love to maybe have a volunteer that we all look at their service flow and kind of skim through their service and see if, if you're willing to be critiqued a little bit or suggestions offered. I'd love to just choose one person that we can kind of hit and talk about. All right. So provide a link to your service in the chat, and somebody talk about what service flow you guys are doing at your church. Before I start calling on somebody. Go ahead, Daniel.
Okay, I'll jump in. So our service flows kind of evolved over the last 3 weeks. So at first it was just a message. Now we're going to, we have always used the Simulate Online. This Sunday we did a little bit something different. We had one of the pastors hop on and give instructions to the church online thing before we ran our 5-minute counter. It really helped because we have a lot of people who are not so tech inclined joining us, and it really helped. We saw engagement go up probably about 100 people as far as chat goes, which was nice, as opposed to the other streaming services that people are using them on. People really like using Vimeo and Facebook Live to stream it on their big screen TV because we have a lot of families. But those are some of the things. So we walk through instructions into a 5-minute countdown into about 2 songs, and then we have our pastor teach. We'll walk through a passage. We go exegetically verse by verse. So this hasn't been a big change in any way, shape, or form. And then we'll have either a song or a prayer that kind of ends it. It's a lot shorter than our normal service would be. Our normal service would run around 1 hour and 10 minutes. This one's running at right at about 45. So, yeah.
Hey, Rob, hate to call on you again, but I'm sure people would love to know what Saddleback is doing. Do you want to talk through your service flow?
Yeah, sure. So this last week and this next week, it'll be a little bit different because we 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago, we pre-recorded about 3 weeks worth of worship. And so I don't know if you guys watched, 2 weeks ago, we set up kind of up on our stage, and we had people kind of shoot in a round where the worship leaders are all facing each other. And then for the 3 sets that we filmed after that, we kind of took over one side of the worship center with a big window facing outside. And so that we have kind of So we have 3 sets for that. We've used 2 of the 3. We have 1 more, and then we'll have to figure out what we're going to do for Easter. But we have 4 songs this week, actually, pre-service. So we kind of start, there's like a pre-roll that's going. There's some slides that say, you know, whatever service is coming. And then we have an online host that gives kind of an intro to the message and what's happening that week. And then from there, it kicks to the worship set, and there's 4 songs. And then Rick gets up and teaches. And I think his message was about 45 minutes this week, which is actually short for him. So I guess we're blessed that it's not quite as long. He typically goes 65, 75. It's pretty long. At the tail end, we did have 1 song to close that kind of helped wrap up his message. And then we had a closing by our host pastor, and then kick to outro and all that. So now I work at one of our regional sites. And so for our service, we also took our campus pastor and I spliced in a video file of him on the front end and on the back end that also kind of just reached to our church family. And so we broadcast that on our campus's Facebook Live.
Hey, Matt, Alex, what about you guys? What are you seeing across the South Carolina convention of what most churches are doing service flow wise?
I was going to give.
I'm going to
Go
defer
ahead.
to Matt. I'm going to defer to Matt because of the situation I'm currently not really involved in many churches yet. But I do have a story about my old church when it would be appropriate.
All right, go for it, Matt.
Yeah. So a good shift we saw in our state was that people moved towards being more intimate. The churches that were doing it at their church location did a better job coming down musically, so not a full band going acoustic, or they moved to what Daniel was talking about, where they moved to a different area of the auditorium or different area of the church. Most pastors were sitting at a table, something like that. I think the churches that I thought connected to the moment and their people the best were the ones that, whether it was a sitting area in their church or they actually set up shop in someone's house. I just think you're grabbing the moment when you do that. And I care so much about music and about production, but one of the things I've begun to consider is, in the midst of this, if our production's really slick and looks really good and it's the best musical quality that we could ever put out there, but someone in your church hasn't received a call from a group leader or a pastor, they don't feel loved and connected to right now, and it seems like the majority of the church's energy is going towards the Sunday service and not towards pastoring the people. Whatever you've got to do in your context to eliminate that disparagement, the better. To the point where if your production suffers because you're caring for your people well, guys, especially yesterday when President Trump said, through April 30th, every state, governor, whatever, they're going to do what they want to do. But everybody's in for another month of this. It's not going to be about production. I think it's going to be way more about caring for people, casting a compelling vision for why this matters, what this is going to look like on the other side. So I think churches in our state did a much better job this week. I think they'll continue to adapt and evolve, especially as they kind of feel the weight of the situation.
Good. All right. Is there anybody that's struggling? Maybe we don't scrub through your service, but is there anybody that wants to volunteer to say, hey, can you guys take a look at my stream? Is there anybody struggling with either the technology, or you don't know, struggling with decisions that your church is making, or don't know the path to go? I just want to leave the floor open for folks like that. Anybody struggling? Alex, go for it, man.
So this is gonna probably be a little bit raw, so I apologize in advance. Prior to being on staff at Brentwood Baptist in Nashville, I was on staff at a large church in Illinois, and unfortunately, their video producer has been tested positive COVID-19 over the past 11 days and been recovering. And one of their pastors, their assistant pastor of their Spanish ministry actually passed away last night of pneumonia. And I think all of the, I just want to echo Matt's thing for this, twofold. One, my brothers and sisters who are doing video right now, you are not immune. The virus does not care. I know that we feel that we need to be the Superman. We need to be the people who are going to rise up in this crisis and use our resources for such a time as this. But the virus doesn't care. And that's not a scare tactic. That's a reality that I've personally encountered over the past 24 hours. So to echo what Carl said and to what Matt said, if you can do what you do from your house over the next months, do it. Production goes down, production quality down, more personal interaction and community goes up. Don't worry about lights and sound. Like this environment, just in an empty room, your pastor talking on his couch is what's important in this time. Do not be the hero in thinking that I need to create this amazing content, because you, video producer, and you, media person, and you, sound person, you are not immune. The challenge in all of this is the 8,000 member church, and they were positive for 2 weeks. So who knows the spread that has happened. So you can pray for Calvary Church in Naperville amidst all the things that are going on there. And it's a strong warning, but I just wanted you guys to heed that advice, that if you can do what you're doing from your house and you can continue to edit from your computer and provide content that is texted to you from your pastor, do it that way, because we all want you guys to be safe on the back end of this. So thanks for praying. Thanks for listening, because it's just a heavy time right now.
I think that's a good warning with those people who are trying to do something besides a stream or pre-record. Like maybe I'm being super cautious, but I'm a little bit concerned about the drive up church approach. Is anybody else trying that, or what are your feelings on the drive up, stage in front with the speakers and everybody drives up and rolls down their window, and that approach, which my church right now is moving to that in the next 2 weeks, and I'm like, I don't know. Tell me y'all's thoughts on that.
So Carl, this is Kevin Parker. I'm in New Mexico, and we've got a lot of smaller churches, and so streaming is new to most of our churches. I mean, we've got guys who are trying to figure it out, and but we've had a bunch of guys shift to the drive-up church thing. Yep. And what we're actually seeing out here is people pull up in their cars, and then they get out their lawn chairs and they sit outside their car. So they're not even staying inside their car. Okay. And so we've started advocating that if they do drive up church, they ask people to park every other parking space, because they're not social distancing if we all roll down our windows and we're parked right next to one another. Right. And we're also encouraging them to go ahead and do the sound system approach, not the FM radio approach. I'm interacting right now with the FCC. Most of what churches are doing with FM radio is illegal. Just because you can buy stuff on eBay and Amazon doesn't mean that it's legal. And we're just seeing that rampant. But we've got churches that are doing a hybrid, and it's really working well. They've got drive-in church for people who just want to get out. They're parking apart from one another. And so the pastor's standing outside, and he is with a sound system, and they're live streaming it. And they've got almost 100% connection with all their people. It's been amazing.
Is that approach working, do you think? And Daryl put this in the chat. Are you concerned at all with, like, how do you do bathrooms and things like that? How are you guys addressing those type issues?
the churches that I have visited with that are doing that, and I'm with the state convention, so this is not my personal church. I'm in a larger church, and we're streaming. I'm here in Albuquerque, but these are churches who are out in smaller places, and it is a huge deal for them to interact with one another. They're not opening up the building. No one comes in. There's 2, maybe 3 people at the church that have come out and set up the sound system and stuff like that. We were talking about, like, with video, scaling everything down. Worship bands and all that kind of thing is scaled down to a single instrument. They still do congregational worship in the parking lot, but it's like a single person playing an instrument. It's really scaled back to very few people. But people seem to like it because we're out here and it's already so remote. I mean, we've got, people driving from 45, 50 miles to go to church. They want to see one another, and the drive-in church thing enables them to see one another. It may be a difference between rural and urban ministry too.
Maybe. So a couple thoughts there. One, we actually have a drive-in movie theater right down from where I live, and Stow, and they decided to close for the time being for various reasons for that. And they were open last weekend, but they were not open, or 2 weeks ago, but they weren't open this past weekend for things like bathroom and things like that. So maybe it depends on your area, definitely, of the approach that you use, but that's interesting.
The other piece about it is that we checked with our governor's office. We're trying to be really, and help our churches be really cooperative with what's going on. Mm-hmm. And so we talked with our governor's office about doing this so that we didn't get pushback from anybody that we're doing something that they don't want us doing.
Yeah.
And
they said yes. They were okay.
They said yes, it was okay. They're really trying to stay away from houses of worship and restricting them, but they still they repeated the whole thing of social distancing and all that, and that's why we're encouraging park every other parking place. Don't fill the lot. Don't even try to fill the lot.
Interesting. That's very interesting. Okay, let me shift gears for a minute, and feel free if you guys want to jump into anything that's been said.
Can I say one more thing? Can I say one thing?
Yeah, go for it.
To tack on to what Alex and Matt said, I think also, like, we have a team of people that serve with us, and so I think we also sometimes forget if we're producing these great things that bring in our team. So I know personally, the church I'm at, in order to run cameras, I've got to bring in 3, 4, 5 people. If you're bringing your team in, you're now exposing them. And so, like, we also have to think about, yeah, we may be able to make this happen, but it also puts our team at risk. And so, like, talking about, one, loving your church, but we also have to love the people who are volunteering and serving with us and protect them. And so if protecting them means our people recording stuff off-site, sending it to, Jordan could speak to this. I think Jordan's church people were sending stuff to him, and then he was editing it together to make the final piece that went out. If that protects your team, protects our people that serve with us, that's probably more important than just making it happen and putting 10 of us at risk for what's going to happen.
Amen.
Yep, good point. Let me speak to the FCC thing real quick. I'll come to you, Daniel. You can probably, if you go the drive-up church route and you want to do it with FM transmitters, you could probably get a low-power FM that's like, and I see it in the chat some too. Paul, is Paul, you still in here? You want to speak to that?
Yeah. So I looked on the FCC website, and I thought, as long as it doesn't leave your property, you're probably okay, so, but no, the FCC website said 100 feet. So that's not very big. So I would think if that's unlicensed, I think you could probably get a license for more, but with everything shut down, it might be after everything is reopened. So you could, if you had multiple low power ones that only went 100 feet, run multiple XLRs and do it that way. but I agree in general, you do not want to get the $1,000 per instance fine from the FCC. And you might think, well, we won't get caught. Probably won't, but do you want to risk it? And do you want to be the national news of the church that said, we don't care what the FCC says, we're a religious organization, like that Louisiana church that's getting all the bad press? I don't think we want to be that church.
Just to comment on some of the stuff said in the chat, Daryl said 200 feet is possible. That's correct. The FCC says that a low power transmitter is anything that's half a watt up to a full watt, and it would transmit about 200 feet. Those are in high demand, so I've seen churches all over the place trying to get them, and very few of them are able to find them. The biggest thing I've pushed on with those groups is what kind of experience are you actually giving people if it rains?
Yeah.
So if they come this weekend, it's not raining, it's really beautiful, and their cars are spaced every other space, and they can see great. Next Sunday they come, it's raining cats and dogs, they can't see anything. So it's just, I think the feasibility becomes an issue there. And so again, the question becomes, how much time, energy, and effort are being put into the one Sunday gathering versus the amount of people? The other thing I'll say on that is, I've seen churches do this regardless of the medium they're using, whether it's recorded, live streamed, in a church, in a home, drive up church, whatever. It's been this, COVID-19 isn't going to stop this church from you fill in the blank. Yeah. And it actually becomes kind of this weird sort of pride issue. And where scripture says outdo one another in showing honor, not trying to one up each other. Like, we're the church that's really doing it during the crisis. Man, that is, any amount of that's got to be kind of stripped away. So let's just humbly serve our people and not get all in that.
That's a good
And
point.
I hope that, through the tragedy, I hope my church can be an example of that nobody is going to rise above. Nobody is immune to this.
Kevin, do you want to speak to rain issues or anything like that? Have y'all run into that, or the churches that you serve?
This is New Mexico. we probably have fewer rain-free days than anybody on the planet, I think.
Yeah.
We have not run into that. We have what we call the monsoon season. I used to live in South Florida. It is not a monsoon season, but it won't come until later in the summer. And so right now, we're having some showers here and there because it's spring, but hardly any. And it's very light and sparsed out. And so we've not had anybody that's run into issues with that at this point.
Okay. Daniel, did you want to add something? Sorry, dude.
Oh, I was just going to speak from the radio perspective. I worked for an organization that decided to run the FCC gauntlet of we're going to run unlicensed, I forget what it was, microphones or some sort of transmitter. And they got caught. It was not fun. You guys do not want to have to go through that much paperwork, just being frank with you. Not to mention all the other crazy stuff. FCC does not play when they come after you. So just don't be that church. Secondly, over in chat, we had some issues. We had some talk about communion. That's going to be a big talk with churches in the next couple of weeks with Easter coming up. We need to be very, very careful about that. Even something as simple as passing out communion cups, like the virus stuff that's coming out. The virus lives on even the plastic wrap or the metal on that for like 7-8 days. Like, I know we want to be a part of the body, and I know we want to be connected, but maybe we need to think about postponing that or doing something alternative that you have there. But just be thinking about that, because that's coming up in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, my church is going to do that, I think, next week, and I think I maybe as a general, I think it may depend on your area for the drive up church and stuff like that. But I think blanket suggestions, if I had to give suggestions to everybody, I would say pre-recorded sim live and no communion until just for now. Just let's hold a month and let's see what happens April 30th, and then let's make a decision from there. But I think that the drive up church might work in some scenarios in some certain places. I don't think communion is probably the best idea, but again, this is total opinion. All right, so let's move to this, and we're gonna stop here in about 10 or 15 minutes or so. But let me get to a couple other things. What streaming provider are you guys finding that is the most reliable? If you want to put that in the chat, what streaming provider you use, that would be awesome. And I'd love some people to speak to what streaming provider you're seeing as the most reliable, or that you're having the least amount of problems with.
And we've just been doing everything on YouTube Premiere. We pre-record it. Again, student ministry here is a little different, but all of our students are on YouTube. Like, I've texted kids like, hey, what are you watching? What shows are you watching? And they're like, I just watch YouTube. And so we've been doing YouTube Premiere, where it lets you all watch it at the same time, be in the chat at the same time. So we'll go on Instagram Live and kind of get everyone excited and say, hey, meet us over. And once you get 100 subscribers, you can put a custom URL. So it's youtube.com/Mount Horeb students. So we've just been doing that on YouTube. And then it stays there, and kids can go back and watch if they missed it. So it's reliable. YouTube's not going to crash, I don't think. So that's been good for us.
Good. Jordan, who do you guys use?
I was just putting that in the chat. We use Boxcast, and we had an issue last weekend. I think last Sunday morning they had kind of a unprecedented viewership last weekend, so there was a little bit of an issue, but they've resolved all that, and it was solid this weekend. So
good. Anybody else streaming? And feel free to throw it in the chat if you want, because I'd love to, especially if it's not like one of the big ones. I'd love to know what you're using. Is anybody having problems with your stream that we can help solve? Daniel?
I had a question. Anyone else get a weird like rubber band thing going on this weekend with Church Online? Because we had a couple of times where it just rubber banded back to point in the message and just repeated the whole thing. That was fun.
James, who do you guys use?
There we go. We use my Stream Spot for our RTMP, but we've been doing Sim Live mostly. But I have been using Stream Spot to stream from their Sim Live to Facebook Live and YouTube Live. So that's a pretty cool way to do that as well. So.
Cool. Anybody else want to talk to stream? Okay. Yep.
So the church that I kind of help, and I'm transitioning out of on full-time staff, but they had an issue yesterday with living as one, not on living as one side, but on their side. And something that could be a backup for everyone is, I didn't know, I found this out last week, but the Church Online platform, which is free from Life Church, you can actually simulate a live event using your Vimeo account. So you can just, that could be something that if you're trying to just take away the issues, you could upload to Vimeo and then just have that embedded into your live event and go live playing off of your Vimeo account.
Yeah, we actually, even when we run live, I always we record a master recording on Thursdays anyways, in case our satellite goes down. So I have a backup message that's always on YouTube or Vimeo that's unlisted, that's ready to just. So if, a couple weeks ago, like we literally just lost power to our room that houses all of our computers. So stream didn't work. So switch it to Sim Live. And then you can also, if you didn't know this, if you ever make a change in Church Online, you can force refresh all your users. So if you change like slides or, sometimes the notes don't stick, that's better now, but it used to be like that, where it would cache in people's browser. so I could force refresh everybody, and it just reloops, back to the beginning. So that's a nice feature if you haven't used it.
Hey, does anyone know if you can actually change streams mid-service using Chop?
Yeah, I've done that before. I can't remember exactly what it does timing wise. I think it grabs like to the timestamp that it should be. Like if you're 32 minutes into your service, it'll go 32 minutes into your video.
That's amazing.
But you can, yeah. And that's where you just force refresh everybody, and it'll reload the page with the video, and when they push play, it'll catch them up.
Hey, Aaron Meyer, I haven't really heard of the caster.io. You want to speak to that for a second?
Yeah, I'm brand new to all of this, but we got a couple of guys from our local TV station that have been working with us. So they recommended just caster.io, way to stream to multiple sources at one time, and to both Facebook and YouTube at the same time. So we're just using a free download of OBS Studio up, then we stream that to Caster. Seems to be working.
Is anybody using the freeonlinechurch.com from Outreach? Talk to that. Has that been helpful? Salvo, you want to talk to that? Are you guys using that?
We use the online church from Life Church.
Okay. Church online platform?
Yep.
Okay. All right, awesome. All right, let's switch to this. What about online giving? I'd love for you to maybe put in the chat too which online giving platform you use, just so people can see that. And are you seeing a dip in giving yet? I asked this last week and it was a little bit mixed, but I'd love to know, are you guys starting to see a dip that you haven't yet? Or just talk to me about your giving. I'd love to hear from Chuck or maybe Chris Wilson. Some of you guys, have you guys seen any dip in giving?
I don't really know the numbers, as I'm sure they've talked about that today. I think we've stayed pretty consistent. Majority of our giving is online anyway, like 70, 80 something percent in there, like ridiculous. We do use push pay, text to give, and through the online browser. But one of the things that we've been doing over the past year is encouraging, especially our partners, like our in all the way people, encouraging them to move to online bill pay through their banking system to lessen the fees that we have to pay to push pay. And it's been pretty interesting. People have already been shocked by the fees and kind of upset about that. And so we've seen a lot of move over to that over the past year as we've encouraged that. So I don't know if anybody else is doing that and having any success with it, but it's kind of where we're at.
Have you seen any, Chris, have you seen people that, even though you might have been on online giving, have you seen people start pulling their auto pays? Like start pulling their credit cards?
I honestly don't know. I'm not typically too up to speed on all of the giving information. We have our executive pastor handles all that. I know we have had a lot of people in our church affected by layoffs and stuff, so I wouldn't be surprised if that's happening. So,
who's on a spending freeze?
Definitely.
Yep. Has there anybody been hit with staff yet? Layoffs from church staff? Anything like that yet? You guys have? Michael, you want to speak to that? How bad are you guys being hit?
Yeah, unfortunately, we're down probably about 25% giving across the board. So we unfortunately had to lay off about 9 staff last week, I think. I think we run around 45, 50 staff total. So,
man, anybody else giving or staff hits? Man. Okay. All right. Last topic for us before we head out. Let's hit Easter plans. So I'd love for you guys to put in the chat, what are you doing for Easter? Is it live stream? Is it pre-record? Is it drive up? What are you doing for Easter? And I'd love for a couple of people to talk through maybe your plans for Easter. Did they change knowing that, the president is now moving to April 30th, or what? James, you want to kick us off? What are you guys doing?
Yeah, we're actually recording Alan's Easter message tomorrow, just to go ahead and get it while people are around and available. We recorded last week several worship sets, and so one of them was kind of an Easter inspired set anyways for our worship team. So we'll master that audio and we did multi-tracks for that. So we'll master and produce that, stick it with the message, and then as we get closer to Easter, we'll add some hosting moments that are more timely, and try to connect with people. We're really trying to take the whole I know Brady and some of those guys have talked about the whole Holy Week approach, taking stuff throughout the week. So we're really trying to invest in some communication every day, Palm Sunday through Easter, with a Good Friday service as well from one of our other pastors. And so, yeah, I mean, it's definitely not as big of a deal as we were going to make of it, but just trying to do a good quality thing that people can be celebratory, but be realistic about some of the other, time that people are going to be home that week too.
Kevin, what about New Mexico? What do you guys, what is the feeling with churches that you work with? Oh, unmute yourself if you would. Oh, Kevin, we can't hear you. Your mic's off, I think. But
Okay, that's I usually use the space bar, and the space bar stopped working. Man, our folks are all over the place as to what they're going to do. Some are pre-recorded, some are trying to do live stuff. We're working with some folks that are trying to do from home, a live service with their people, but with a whole bunch of different people helping to lead that service from where they are in different homes, which is kind of logistically interesting. So it becomes much more like this on a Zoom call. Just everybody can't see everybody except for speakers. We're also looking at some approaches to take a Zoom meeting where we can change whose video is spotlighted at a time, and take that and stream that. Zoom has some capabilities itself to live stream, and we're looking into that for just some of that type approach, so that churches with multiple staff at home can have some actual church members participate in leading Easter from home completely separated. And that's going to be interesting. We're actually playing with some idea. I haven't seen anybody do it yet, but we're trying to figure out, we don't know how to do it yet, but how to actually have some live congregational worship, even dealing with the delays through streaming and everything, even if we're all kind of off, to actually be able to hear one another sing and participate. That could be really powerful. We don't have a solution for it yet, but we're looking into that.
I know there's a lot of worship leader groups that are talking. We've talked with some about creating the video for them, of doing these, montage Zoom call, like We Are the World kind of choir, where it's a bunch of people in a Zoom call and you edit it together.
Yeah, it's pretty heavily post-produced.
It is, and it takes a lot to pull that off. So, we're trying to have to weigh, is that worth it?
I'm wondering if you have any tips for us on that, like a virtual choir.
You talking to me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's how I would do it. I would have each person record the full song on their iPhone, fully sing the whole thing. And then in post, you can highlight different people. So if you have like a solo, or then you put it all in boxes and have multiple people singing at once. But that's the best way that's how I would go about it, is you're asking 15, 20 people to shoot themselves on an iPhone horizontal, and record it, give you a little bit on the front, a little bit on the back. That's nothing. And then use, Premiere or something to sync all that up. And then you might go into After Effects if you want to do some, motion graphic stuff, depending on how in depth you want to go. But I would sync it all up first. That way you can turn a layer on and off as you need it. Is there something? Does that give you enough, or something?
Try to have them use like a click track in their ear, like our worship pastor have in their ear, basically as they record. We'll see.
You could even have them sing to the track, so they could wear earphones and they could sing to the track
exactly
with their earphones, and that's not being picked up through the iPhone.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I would suggest that if you got a click track or a guide track or even just the track. Plus, that helps you sync everything in post if they sing together.
Yep.
That'd be almost impossible if you don't, actually, now that you think about like adding all those together. But yeah, just get them to record with the track.
Yep. Does that help you, Jordan?
Yeah, we're going to give it a shot and see how it goes.
Yeah.
Hey, Carl, can I throw in a question here?
Sure, Jim.
I came on video. Sorry, guys. Hadn't showered. Hey, I left a text question or a chat question about children's ministry. I think some of you guys replied, or maybe it was skipping. If we could do a follow-up for children, or definitely want to see, there's a pastor out of Michigan who's traveled the world teaching children, even in China, and he's trying to do something like this. So maybe we could have like a children's pastor reunite, because this is fantastic. I'd like to know what children's ministries are doing.
Yes, good question. Okay, so here's the major. So we work with the ministry that seeds family worship. They write word for word scripture songs. Okay, so what they've asked us to do, and we've done it 2 weeks in a row. And last week they had, I think, 13. I think the views are up to like 15,000 people. That's families represented. So if you're talking 3 people in a family, we're talking 50, 60,000 people watched this last weekend or 2 weeks ago. And then we did the same thing yesterday. So we've produced a packaged online children's service that is an open, it's lyric videos, it's a message, so if you're looking for something to show to your kids, seedsfamilyworship.com. It's free every Sunday. They do it Facebook Live, 7 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern. So that's a package deal. Okay. So as far as what individual churches are doing, I would say, they're either, so some churches do Awanas or other things, and they're sending the video file to parents. So if they're doing Awanas or they're doing some type of video lesson, they email that out to parents and the parents show it. That's another approach. Also, I've seen some do Zoom calls where all the kids are on. The classroom, the public classroom, is doing some of that as well. Or I've also seen, children's pastor record a video or put a video together and then email that out. So I've seen all those different approaches. I think probably what's worked for my family is watching the Seeds online children's service and then interacting with the children's staff, here and there during the week. That's what's worked for my family. But does that kind of answer your question, Jim, or?
That was helpful, but I definitely want to stay innovative. I would like to see us pull on some children's pastors on one of these. This is fantastic, Daryl.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Another idea for people, different churches have different staffs, but something that could be really cool, at least I've noticed, is a lot of the parents are watching services on Sunday morning. But if you were to have something in conjunction that you can say, hey, we're going to start a Zoom call, or we're going to have a video going on our children's ministry page for the kids, and it's going to coincide with the message, so that when we're done, you and your family can come together and talk. But it could be a cool way to engage with the kids in a different way that allows them to, you could use resources. You don't have to all create it. I mean, you could go to Seeds and say, hey, we're going to buy 2 of your songs and put it in our video this week. But you could do some of that kind of stuff that would connect with the kids while the parents are watching service. Because we all know that if you have kids, I have a baby, you know, as she grows up, she's going to constantly be wanting to pull at me. And if we're sitting watching a show, she might want to eat 20 different times. But if you put her in front of something that might be beneficial for children, to, hey, we're engaging with something that's geared toward us, our parents are engaging, and at the end of that, we can come together and talk. That could be a really cool opportunity for churches, if they've got the staff that are available to do stuff, to do kind of some of those individualized things for the different age groups.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I said on last week's Zoom too, that I really found in doing. So I hit like 50 churches live stream last week. And that's one major thing that I found is I only saw 1 or 2 churches that actually I knew what they were doing for their kids service. Okay. So on your stream page or on your live page on your website, have watch the adult worship experience, watch the kids experience. Like put it on the same page, because that's where the parents are looking. So make that very clear, very easy how to find the kids service or the kids connection, whatever that is. But I would say right now, I think your time and energy is probably poured into the adult worship experience. And if you can lean into prepackaged stuff for kids and then supplement with Zoom calls or something like that, that might be most effective. But yeah, Jim, I think that's probably a good idea to get a Zoom call with a bunch of children's pastors and stuff like that. Yep. I'm in a couple of those groups. We might get that together. Cool. All right. Well, as we end today, any other random questions that we got? Anything that you guys are struggling with, or just hit me with anything that was.
I just wanted to share one thing that we've done that I think has been really helpful. We actually started this like well before this happened. We created in the sort of Church on the Move did this years ago with their like insider website, cotm.info kind of stuff. And we've always loved that idea of, here's where, our website is forward facing. It's, the world facing, but like, where can people go to get content? And so we made a place called The Hub for us. So it's hf.church/hub. And it's been so good in all of our online communication to just be like, go to the hub, hf.church/hub. Where can I give? Where can I get where can I fill out my About You card? It's on the hub. Where can I get this? It's on the hub. Our updates are on,
Yep.
My encouragement to anybody, doing that, even if you don't make a whole kind of other page, like we used Rock inside of it to make it, very dynamic for people who are logged in based on their campus and all that. But even if you just make your new homepage a way, like it gets so confusing telling people where to go. And I'm always shocked, we've had so many people watch online that have never done that before. So they're messaging me like, how do I even find this service, or whatever. And it's like, oh, this is hard, like things that I think are easy are hard for most people. And so, man, if you can like put everything on one page like that, that's been a huge, huge win for us. And when I'm getting, multiple communicators shooting videos each week, hosting moments, to be able to just say, hey, send, if you're going to talk about generosity, that's on the hub too, right? You don't even have to go to hf.church/give. Just go to the hub and there's a link right there to give. So that just be my advice. That's been a win for us, is creating that space that really houses your in-house information so people can easily find it, because they really can't otherwise.
Right. So let me speak to that. 4 things you could put on your hub. So first of all, homepage, and then your hub button is right on your homepage. Make it super clear. But the 4 thing, and James, feel free to speak to this, but 4 things that I'm thinking of that goes on that hub. How do I watch my live stream adult service? What are we doing for kids? What are we doing for students, and online giving? Those 4 things are what people are after right now. James, would you add anything to that list?
Yeah, we've got, let me just pull our page up here. I'll share it in the chat too. You can check it out if you want to. We've got, another thing that's cool, because ours is dynamic, is that when there's an about you section, so if they need to update any information, that's going to instantly tie them into Rock, which is helpful on that capture piece, especially with online, right? Follow up is so much harder than saying, hey, if you made a decision, come down and talk to somebody. It's like, hey, if you click to raise your hand, where's it going to take you? Well, it's just going to take you to the hub, right? And there's going to be an opportunity to fill out information. We keep our message notes in there, discussion guides, and then steps, giving, resources. So yeah, I mean, really, it's like if you go to Highlands, everything you really want to find, you can find on this page.
Yeah.
Almost training people to not go to our website and go to this page instead.
I like that. All right, guys. Well, I would love to continue to learn from you guys what you're doing, and if we can be a help in any way, let us know. I've put my cell phone number and my email in the chat, so feel free to grab that real quick. I'd love for you guys to text me individually. In fact, if you'd take a minute and do that, I would love to pray for you by name this week, and in your context in your church or wherever. I would love to do that. If you don't mind, shoot me a text real quick. And then we're going to do these every single Monday at 12:30 Eastern. So it's 1230.media/Monday Roundtable. Steve, would you mind? Yeah, thanks. There's a link in the chat there, and we'll try to send out an email or Facebook or whatever to remind you. But Monday Roundtable, and we'll just talk about what what we learned each week, and we'll just keep doing these as long as we need to. I hope they're beneficial. They've helped me learn so much from you guys. So appreciate it. Anybody have any last words or need to say anything?
You're going to pray us out of here?
Yeah, I'll pray us out.
Hey, and I just want to point out 30% of Americans, people in the United States, English is not their first language. So out of your hubs, one of them ought to be what language?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
All right, let's pray and then we'll head out. Lord, thank you so much again for just friends all over the country. Just the body of Christ is amazing. The fact that we can come together using technology and Lord, just learn from each other, help each other, pray for each other, and just be a help. I'm just so honored that you would allow us in this time and place in history to have the technology to do that. Knowing that 20 years ago, if something like this hit, we wouldn't have this technology to do this. So thank you so much, God, for us having this to be able to stay connected with each other. Lord, give us wisdom. You tell us in the book of James 1:5, you tell us ask for wisdom. So we're asking, God, as we go into Easter, as we go into Palm Sunday and then Easter over the next few weeks and months, Lord, I just pray for wisdom to know how to accomplish our worship experiences, how to do church, how to communicate, how to pastor, all that. Lord, just give us wisdom as we try to figure it out together. Lord, thank you so much for this time. We love you. Amen.